In the headline, 14 killed in night attack on 2 communities in Plateau State. Gunmen kidnap wife, children of overseas returnee in Kwara. Acting IGP Kayode Egbetokun assumes office at Force Headquarters in Abuja. And on the international scene, dozens killed in Somalia's Portland after Parliament's debate. Hello and welcome to Trust TV News Update. I am Sumaya Abubakar. Thank you for joining us. Now the details. At least 14 persons were killed when gunmen invaded Riom local government area of the Plateau State on Tuesday. The incident happened in Rahosambak village of Rahos. The police public relations officer of the Plateau State Police Command, Alabo Alfred, did not respond to his call or text message as at the time of this report. The Assistant Inspector General of Police, Musa Haladu, who is in charge of Zone 4, has visited some of the crisis areas in the Plateau State. The AIGs was in the state gets first-hand information about crises bedeviling the state in the recent time. Adu Musa files the report.
The AIG is visiting the state to inspect the security situation of the crisis areas and to condole with the government and people of the state over the loss of their loved ones. Mr. Haladu promised to work with the state government to restore peace.
To solve this problem, but I always prayed in this office, and by the grace of God, mission has started here. So what the grace I planted was by the grace of God, we pray and God will give it our wisdom.
The state governor, Barrister Caleb Mutfwan, appealed to the people of the state to remain calm as his government will ensure lives and properties are protected.
And therefore, we are looking for lasting solutions. And let me seize this opportunity again to appeal to our people of the plateau to remain calm, that all hands are on deck to be able to address these issues and arrest this ugly situation.
More than 200 people were killed in recent time in the villages of Mangu, Barikiladi, and your local government areas. Ado Musa, Trust TV News, Jos.
Trust TV, Ado Musa in Plateau now gives us an update of what's happening in Plateau State. Ado Musa, let's talk about how the event in Riom happened. What was the situation? How did it happen? Okay, we lose Ado Musa at the moment. All right, let's move on to more stories. Now, 3 members of a family, including the wife and children of an overseas returnee, have allegedly been abducted in Kwara State. It was gathered that the incident occurred in Okanle, Fajeromi community in Ifelodun local government area on Monday around 11 p.m. The gunmen were said to have invaded the community located near Idofian and kidnapped the victims while they were sleeping in their homes. The wives of a man identified as Sikiru Abiola, who returned to the community from overseas about 3 years to practice farming, and his 2 sons were forcefully taken away by the abductors. The Olugbese of Okale, who is the Bale community head, Alaji Abdul Fatai Olasokami, confirmed the incident. He said the gunmen arrived at the community at midnight on Monday when the villagers were already asleep and invaded the house of Alaji Sikiru and kidnapped the victims. He said the vigilantes in the town responded to the alarm raised by Alaji Sikiru Abiola. A spokesperson for the Kwara Police Command, SP Ajayi Okasomi, confirmed the incident on Wednesday. Okasomi said the matter was reported on Wednesday and operatives, in collaboration with other security agencies, have been deployed to comb the bush. The Acting Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, has assumed office at the Force Headquarters in Abuja. His arrival comes a day after he was decorated by the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, as the 22nd IGP of the Nigerian Police Force. The acting IGP, who acknowledged the enormous responsibility that accompanies his appointment, appealed for cooperation and teamwork, promising to run a transparent and integrity-driven regime. Stressing the importance of community policing as one policy thrust of his administration, he revealed plans to strengthen the intelligence gathering capabilities of the force. He also hopes to build a stronger interagency collaboration and deepen the technology approach to guaranteeing internal security. In his farewell speech, the former IGP, Usman Alkali Baba, said he led a team that made a notable impact on internal security, adding that he is optimistic he's leaving a more improved force behind. More reactions continue to trail the face-off between the driver unit of the National Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, NUPENG, and the Rivers State Command of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps. Now, this is even as the South-South Youth Initiative has accused top members of the National Union of the Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers of involvement in illegal oil bunkering activities in the Niger Delta region. The report.
Leadership of South-South Youth Initiative described the allegations and removal of the commandant of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps in Rivers State, Oga Michael, as unfounded. Addressing newsmen in Port Harcourt, SSYI National President, Comrade Xavier Oscar, described the action of NUPENG and IPMAN members who blocked a major road leading to the NSCDC state headquarters in Port Harcourt as contempt of court.
It is clear and note that NUPENG and IPMAN have never acted based on the welfare of the ordinary citizen. Rather, they've always acted based on their personal welfare. NUPENG have not added their voice to talk about the affecting issue of oil subsidy removal that affected the general masses. Rather, they went fast in their action because their truck that was carrying illegal bunkering was actually accosted, and even the men that was responsible for these trucks disappeared into thin air.
Oscar explained that despite all effort by oil thieves in the region, Oga has remained professional in his line of duty. He urged the NSCDC Commandant General not to act based on sentiment, but on utmost professionalism in the course of the investigation.
We urge the Commandant General of NSCDC not to act based on sentiment, but utmost professionalism. We are calling on the court that gave the interim order to go after the personnel of NUPENG and IPMAN for contempt of court. The people involved in undermining the order of court should be arrested and prosecuted accordingly. We are also calling on the Commandant General of NSCDC, Dr. Ahmed Odi, not to allow self-centered politicians and individuals to be a deciding factor of our action against his own men and officers.
The Commandant General of the Corps has since deployed a new commandant to replace Oga in Rivers State.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian Customs Service, the Niger Kogi Area Command, have intercepted a Mitsubishi truck loaded with railway locomotive parts believed to have been vandalized along Minna-Bida Road. The Customs Area Controller B.O. Kadejo made this known while handing over the seized vehicle to the Niger State Command of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps for proper investigation. He said upon sighting the surveillance patrol team of the Customs, the suspected vandals stopped and abandoned the truck and fled the scene. He said preliminary investigation revealed that the vandalized locomotive railway parts belonged to the Nigerian Railway Corporation.
Those that are they are highly unpatriotic. They are very callous. Because we know removal of railway tracks, you know what it can cause? Derailment. Apart from the economic implications. So as for the Nigerian government to provide adequate infrastructure, that is why subsidy is being removed. Can you imagine government is trying all its efforts just to make sure that they cater for the citizen?
A total of 501 individuals have been arrested by the Adamawa State Command of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. The NDLEA says it has arrested no fewer than 501 drug offenders, comprising 491 men and 10 females between June 2022 to May 2023. The arrest, according to the command, was achieved due to its drive toward ensuring zero tolerance for drug abuse and illicit drug trafficking in the state. Silas Lawan has the report.
According to the command, 1,164.700 kg of illicit substances were seized, while 117 drug offenders were sentenced to various terms of imprisonment.
We have also recorded cocaine and psychotropic substances, or what is popularly known as pharmaceutical opiate, consisting of tramadol, capsules and tablets, Exo-5 tablet, Rohypnol tablets, pentazocine injection, which is being injected by our younger generations, cough syrup with codeine, diazepam, or D5 or D5.
Stakeholders reiterated their readiness to combat the menace of drug abuse and illicit drug trafficking in the state.
Our children must be well observed so that as a mother or a father from the home background, when we notice the symptoms of drug use in our children, there is no need hiding it. We need help. Let's seek for professional help, especially from the NDLEA, because that will not kill our children. It will only make them better. But when we hide such things, then they brew, and become something different for us as parents, for the immediate family, and for the nation at large.
Meanwhile, the Adamawa State Command of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency has scheduled a lineup of a week-long activity in commemoration of the 2023 International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Drug Trafficking. Silas Lawan, Trust TV News, Yola.
You're watching News Update on Trust TV. Coming up, we will take a look at worries associated with out-of-school children. This and more after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is News Update on Trust TV. And here's a recap of our top stories. We brought you 14 killed in night attack in 2 communities in Plateau State. And gunmen kidnapped wife, children of overseas returnee in Kwara. Now moving on to more stories. No fewer than 102 stranded Nigerians evacuated from Libya on Wednesday were received by the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, in Lagos. The returnees were officially received by Mustafa Ahmed, Director General, NEMA, on behalf of the federal government, according to a statement made available to newsmen by the agency. The statement said of the 102 returnees, 96 were females, 2 males, and 4 infants. It added that the returnees arrived at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, late Tuesday evening aboard an Al Burak Air Boeing 737-800 with a registration number 5A-DMG. It quoted the DG as saying that the federal government was committed to ensuring that Nigerian citizens were protected any way they find themselves. The rise in cases of out-of-school children, which is a direct implication of the herders and farmers crisis in Benue State, has become a source of concern for many residents of the state. Now, this, residents say, has caused considerable damage to the social, economic, and political life of the people, especially children who, instead of being in school, have taken to the streets in search of where to catch the next meal. JB Adzande reports.
The future of some Benue kids is bleak, no thanks to the farmer herders crisis that has displaced over 1 million villagers from their ancestral homes. Makurdi residents are worried that with this development, if not checked, will negatively impact the entire state in no distant future.
Most of the children, they are not attending schools. The makeshift schools that have been opened, they are not very standard. And then most people have decided to go and live with others. If you pay careful attention, you can see that for a long time now, there has been a trend. People who have been displaced going around Makurdi town, begging for people to adopt their children so that at least they can feed. So they are no longer talking about education, it's how to feed, where to find shelter and find food that could sustain their life.
They want the government to establish more schools in a bid to resettle the war victims to their ancestral communities.
Community structures that are destroyed by virtue of the attacks, if you put them back, 1, road networks. When they are destroyed, farmers cannot take their produce to the markets. Places of worship, when they are destroyed, you cannot have people coming together again. Educational centers, when they are destroyed, people cannot go to school again. There are some children that have been in the camps all their life. They were born in the camps, they are still in the camps till today. There's no education for them. We know the kind of future we are preparing to tolerate such a situation. The future is bleak.
Governor Alia administration has been urged to revisit the open grazing prohibition and ranches establishment law that became a bone of contention and strengthened some for the overall good of the parties involved.
It's a good law that seeks to establish a ranching system. But you and I know that many years while we were growing up, people practiced ranching. People who had cattle would keep them in a place and allow them to go out at certain times and come back. That was elements of ranching. It's the best model. Globally, everybody accepts that that's the right thing to do. So that law has the best model, a good law, but it needed to be perceived as more friendly. To use the technical expression, it needed to be conflict sensitive. And the conflict sensitivity elements of the law was missing.
Hyacinth Alia in his campaign manifesto promised to return the internally displaced persons to their homes in record time. Either way, it is the desire of the surviving victims to return to where they can venture into agriculture and make their lives better.
The rise in criminality is turning life into a nightmare for some residents of the FCT who are becoming victims of the new trend of car breaking-ins in the nation's capital. In this report, Kabir Lawal spoke to some experts on how this menace can be curbed. The report.
Car break-in and illegal forced entry into a vehicle, typically to steal something, has been on a steady rise in the FCT. Motorists who innocently park their cars are usually oblivious that someone is watching to break in and cut away valuables like laptops, car documents, and others. However, security expert Kabir Adamu said car owners should make it their responsibility to keep their valuables out of the car to avoid being robbed.
Sometimes they steal mirrors, sometimes it's the insignia on the vehicle, but most other times is what people leave in the vehicle. So bags, envelopes, and other valuables. So that is where I'm saying the owners of the vehicles are to blame. But more importantly, the security agencies whose responsibility it is to protect those assets, I think, take more of the blame.
He further advised car owners to endeavor to make use of alarms, which will alert people around the area when such illegalities are about to be perpetrated.
We need to take certain measures before they become traceable. So as an example, when you have an asset, depending on the make of the asset, almost all of them, first they have this double authentication option. Once you buy devices like that, activate that, especially for your, the operating systems, it allows you to do that. Then for the device itself, most of them, modern devices, they have options for tracing where they are once they are online.
Residents of the Federal Capital Territory said they are dismayed how their valuables have been carted away by hoodlums, adding that security operatives should complement the effort of the car owners by safeguarding cars in public spaces.
It's a very bad attitude. It is not called for at all. So the government can also try to do something about their situation and condition by creating more jobs and make things easy for the citizens. Because somebody who is well-to-do or who is living a reasonable life cannot just break into somebody's car.
I feel terrible because it's usually very unexpected, and you would always have plans, and those kind of things usually disrupt your plans. So if they do that, it will really be heartbreaking, honestly. Honestly, I would tell them it's unfair, it's unjust. And personally, I think if they are caught, they should be really punished. The law, it's unkind for a human being to be unkind to another human being.
It is actually disheartening to break into someone's car and go with their belongings. I'm calling on the youth who indulge in this kind of acts to stop and engage themselves with work to keep them busy. The youth should know the kind of company they keep, which goes a long way to tell people who you really are. Some said parking in unsecured parks can also be one of the factors which make car owners fall victims. They, however, called on government to make it mandatory for those involved in this cruel act to be made to face the full wrath of the law. Kabir Lawal, Trust TV News, Abuja.
From the international scene, more than 24 people were killed during heavy fighting in Somalia's semi-autonomous state of Puntland. Clashes broke out in the state capital, Garowe, as the local parliament debated changes to the voting system. At least 26 people died, 16 of them soldiers, while 30 others were wounded. Witnesses described heavy fighting that erupted after opposition groups accused Puntland's leader, Said Abdullahi Deni, of seeking constitutional changes that would extend his term in office beyond January next year or help tip the ballot in his favor. The Puntland government said on Facebook that the regional parliament voted to consider amendment to the constitution and further debates and votes would take place. Approximately 3.4 million Sierra Leoneans are expected to vote in a general election on Saturday, in which incumbent President Julius Maada Bio is seeking a second and final term amid frustrations over economic hardship. Voters will also elect members of parliament and local councillors across the West African state, which is experiencing massive unemployment, high levels of inflation, and a depreciating currency. In August 2022, there were protests in the Freetown and several northern towns about soaring cost of living, resulting in more than 20 deaths as security agents fired at protesters. The poll is the fifth presidential election since the end of a 1991 to 2002 civil war in which more than 50,000 were killed, hundreds maimed, and hundreds of thousands displaced. Nabil, 59, is seen as the frontrunner in the 13th candidate presidential race. His biggest challenger is Samora Kamara of the main opposition All People's Congress (APC) party, who narrowly lost to Bio in the last 2018 election. Kande Yumkela, a former United Nations Under-Secretary General who came third in 2018 and is not running, has thrown his weight behind the president. And finally, in sports, Mateo Kovacic is close to joining Manchester City after they agreed a deal with Chelsea worth up to £30 million. The Croatia midfielder 29 is set to join the Premier League champions for an initial fee of £25 million with £5 million in potential add-ons. Now, Chelsea are continuing to sell players as they look to trim their large squad for new manager Mauricio Pochettino. Fellow midfielder N'Golo Kante is also on his way out, having agreed to join Al Ittihad in Saudi Arabia. Kovacic joined Chelsea from Real Madrid 2019, initially on loan, before signing a 5-year permanent contract. The arrival of Kovacic will throw further doubt on Ilkay Gundogan's Manchester City future, with the Germany midfielder's contract about to expire. Kovacic made 37 appearances in all competitions for Chelsea last season in a turbulent campaign which saw the Blues go through 3 managers before finishing 12th in the Premier League. And with that, we've come to the end of News Update on Trust TV. Do not forget to follow us across all our social media platforms. I am Sumaya Abubakar. Thanks for watching.